Good morning. This morning, as I was getting set up for the class and realizing this is actually in my way here, that the light is totally different in my room this morning because on the weekend the clocks changed by an hour. So if you're doing this sort of around the time that the class is recorded, you probably know what I'm talking about. So it was darker this morning than it normally is, or than it normally has been. And of course, last night was a little bit lighter, a lot lighter at the end of the day. So that was one thing I noticed as I was setting up the space this morning, is that the light was different. And funny enough, that's our theme this week, is light. And my cat has decided to knock the computer around, so sorry about that. So in the Vedic tradition, which is the philosophy that predates yoga, the idea of light was really important, and that light was a very healing quality. So we've worked with grounding, we've worked with flow, with water, and as we sort of move up the body and the chakras, we're moving up to fire and air. So fire around the solar plexus, and of course fire needs air to as fuel as well. So fire and air coming together to create this sort of combustion or light within. And when we have this idea of light within ourselves, we feel lighter in our bodies, literally, not literally, but lighter as opposed to heavier, but we also feel a sense of light as opposed to dark. And this guy is so full of light. So just check out those eyes. He doesn't want to be checked out today. So we'll just go to the mat and get going, and maybe the cat will calm down and do our practice today. So a little bit of warming, and maybe some sun salutations, and lots of just movement to get things full of ease with the light. So you can come to your mat and lie down. And as you come to lie down, you can be in any position that's comfortable for you. So you may want to have your hands on your body to feel your breath, but you may be as comfortable or more comfortable with your arms away from the body. And take a moment to imagine any kind of light source that appeals to you. So that could be a firelight or sunlight. Any kind of light that appeals to you, and bring a picture of that light into your mind if you're able. Not everyone can visualize, but if you're able, bringing a picture of that light into your mind. And as you breathe and become conscious of your breath, you might invite that light to enter you with the breath. So as if you could breathe that light into your body. And you can imagine that light going everywhere in your body. So light continues to move until it meets some kind of restriction, like a wall. So wherever we are open and unrestricted in the body, we can imagine that light could flow to those areas. Now, if there's areas that feel tight or restricted, you might send a little more light to those areas, inviting the light to create a little more space. So a few more breaths here. Feeling that you could perhaps fill yourself with light as you breathe. As you exhale, you might visualize letting go of tension, letting go of holding in the body. And before we start to move, if there's any area in your body that you feel particularly needs healing today, you might imagine as you breathe, directing that light and that breath into wherever it is that you feel could use extra support, extra healing. And then taking one or two full breaths without straining at all. And then we'll bring both knees up in toward the chest. So you can take one hand onto each knee and move the knees a little bit further away by straightening the arms. Breathing in. And then as you exhale, drawing your knees in toward your chest, letting go of tension. So as you inhale, you can still imagine drawing in some light, maybe directing it where it might need to go in your body. And it could be body healing that's required. It could be mind or emotions that need some support from the light. So you can send that light wherever you feel it will be helpful. And as we create space in various parts of the body today, inviting that space to be filled with light. And as the light changes in my space, I can feel the sun on me today, which is such a lovely feeling as the days get longer and warmer. You can release the left foot to the floor and bring the hands either behind the right knee, or you can let the hands rest on the ground. We'll stretch the leg toward the ceiling without creating a big stretch. So keeping the knee a little bit bent, and do a few circles with the ankle. So as you circle the ankle, you're creating more fluidity in the joint, as we talked about last week. And also creating maybe a feeling or sense of spaciousness, and inviting a feeling of light, openness into that joint. You can give the leg a little shake, let the ankle be floppy. And then we'll work with the knee joints. You can draw the knee in and then move it straighter. Draw it in. The hands can be on the knee or come behind the thigh, or again, stay away from the leg altogether. So as you extend the leg, the thigh in front contracts, releases as you release the leg. So we're getting some movement into that knee joint, inviting a bit more space, more ease, fluidity, and also light. And then bringing the knee in, give a little squeeze. You can stretch the opposite leg out to get it out of the way. You can always leave it bent if that's more comfortable. And we'll work to bring a little space and ease and light into the hip joint now. So you can do any kind of movement here, circling or side to side. And then coming back to the center, you can take the right foot to the floor and extend that leg out. And the arms can rest on the ground or on your body. So bringing your awareness to that leg that we've just worked, the right leg, and feeling the space that you've created around the joints, and then maybe inviting a little more light into that space, imagining your breath drawing in and down and going into that leg, into the foot. And then let's bend both knees again. You can move the left leg up toward the ceiling. Again, keep lots of bend in the knees. So we're not trying to stretch the leg here, but get some movement into the ankle. So circling one way and then the other. And relax and give the leg a little shake. And drawing the knee in toward the body. Again, you can use your hands to help or not, as you like. So moving the leg a little more bent, a little more straight, feeling the front of the thigh contract, the back lengthen, and then the opposite. Right, and then bringing that knee into the chest. Again, you have the option to extend the opposite leg. And then from there, adding some movement into the left hip. Any movement that would feel good. Right, and then you can bring the foot back to the floor, extend that leg out, and take a moment to feel what's happening in that leg and maybe invite a little more light into that space as you breathe. Imagine breathing the light all the way down into that leg. And then we'll work on creating some space in the hips and the lower abdominal area, bringing the knees back to point at the ceiling, feet on the ground, feet together. Again, your hands could rest on your body or on the ground, whatever is comfortable for you. And you can open and close the knees a few times now. If you want to coordinate your breathing, you'll open the knees on an inhalation and bring the knees back together as you exhale. You can do a few more dynamically, or for those of you who find this very comfortable, or if you have some blocks to support your knees, or it could even be blankets or cushions. So it's not about getting the biggest stretch you can find, but allowing your body to relax in this position. So there's no feeling of strain or holding in the inner thighs. And then you could let the belly really relax here, the lower abdomen, and take a few breaths. If you're still moving, that's fine. If that feels better for you, just keep moving. If you're staying, take a couple of more breaths here. And then you can gradually bring the knees back together if you've had them apart. And then let's just take the feet a little bit apart, let the knees fall together. And again, hands can rest on your body or on the ground. Breathing light into this lower abdominal area, inviting some space and ease and openness into that part of the body. And then we'll take the arms and slide them out to the sides on the ground, maybe a little bit lower than shoulder height, and bring the feet in a little closer to each other. They could be about hip distance apart or even closer if you like. And we'll come into a gentle twist. So now working into the outer hips and the sides of the waist, where you feel that little stretch as well as a bit of twist in the spine. So you can exhale as you go to the side, and then inhale as you come to center. Exhale to go to the other side. As your knees go one way, you may want to turn your head the other way for a little bit more twist. So you're coming up with a breath in and releasing to each side as you exhale. Do a few more, moving at your own pace. And again, if you want to keep moving or just come back to the center and pause, you can do that. And if you want to stay for a couple of breaths to one side, you can stay, and you might play around with propping your legs so again you're really comfortable. So it could be a block under or between your legs. It could be a cushion or a blanket that you use, or maybe you don't need anything. Maybe you're completely comfortable as is. And then again, arms can come to the sides, and you want to feel somewhere along this line where there's a bit of stretch. So from the hip, maybe into the rib cage or the shoulder, breathing into that space as if you could breathe light, as if you could create some more openness, some more space with your breath, and fill that space with light. Eventually, if you're staying, you'll want to stay on the other side as well. And again, you could prop your legs if you find that helpful, or not if it's not necessary. So again, if it feels better to keep moving or come out of the pose, do so at any time. Otherwise, feeling wherever you feel a bit of restriction or tightness in this pose, breathing into that space. Maybe imagining you could breathe light into the tightness, into the body. And then gradually drawing the knees back to the center. And we'll bring the knees up in toward the chest. So squeezing the breath gently out as you draw the knees in, creating space for breath and light to come into the body as you move the knees away. So exhaling to draw in, inhaling to release. And doing a few more at your own pace. And then you might hold the knees and breathe, maybe rock a little side to side and massage the big muscles that support your spine. And then coming back to the center, you can release your feet to the floor, arms Again, coming a little bit away from the body, resting on the ground. And so now we'll create some space in the whole front of the body, lifting with the bridge pose. So feet underneath the knees, specifically your heels lined up underneath your knees. And then take a breath in. As you exhale, press your feet down into the earth. Feel your tailbone lift. And then start to lift the body, feeling space from the knees to the shoulders. And then as you exhale, slowly release and lower down. Your breath may be a totally different rate than mine, or you may want to take a couple of breaths to lift and lower. So take your time with this movement. Breathing fully in and fully out. And then coming back down to rest on the ground and take a few normal breaths here. We'll start to work a little bit with the shoulders and the arms. You can start by drawing the arms down to your sides. And then lifting the arms straight up. Stopping wherever you feel restriction, not forcing the arms. Maybe coming as far as the floor if that's comfortable and available. And then back down to your sides. So you can coordinate the breathing if you want, which would be an inhale as you lift and an exhale as you lower. If you want to move at a different pace than your comfortable breath, just breathe normally or take 2 breaths to do the movement. And feeling your shoulders start to open and get a little movement. You can take the arms up toward the ceiling. Turn the palms to face each other, lift the shoulders up and draw them down. And then lift the right shoulder. Breathe in, exhale, let the shoulder release. Left shoulder, breathe in. Exhale, release. Again. And then both shoulders relaxing down, bend your elbows, take your hands to your elbows. Keeping a little shape of a square over your chest. We'll keep the legs stationary. Move the head and the arms to one side. And then back to center. And then over to the other side. Back to center. Creating some space in the upper back of the shoulders. And then as you come back to the center, release your arms out to the sides. And then you'll raise the arms up, maybe bend the elbows a little so that the elbows and hands are on the ground comfortably, the shoulders are comfortable, but you might feel a little bit more opening in either the chest or the shoulders, upper back. The legs can stay as they are, or again, you might want to move the feet apart, let the knees fall together. Take a few full breaths here, not forcing the breath, but feeling that you could open some space around the chest as you breathe. One more nice, full, deep breath. Exhale completely. And then you can again bring the knees into the chest. And you can circle the knees or move forward and back with the knees or side to side. And then come back to the center. Let your feet come to the floor. The hands could rest on your body or on the floor. The legs could be bent or straight. And we'll take a moment here before we change positions to reconnect with the breath and today's theme of light. So we've moved most of the major joints and muscles of the body. And you might be aware of feeling a little more spaciousness now. Again, take a couple of deeper breaths. And then one or two nice full breaths, as if you could again breathe that light in. Release any kind of tension that you're able to release. Be aware of what stays stuck or held in your body. There's no shame in that. We have deep patterns of holding, and often that can be about protecting ourselves from injury or perceived injury. So there's often a good reason for why we may hold tension, but then there's also lots of places in the body where we hold tension without a good reason. When you're ready to change positions, you can roll onto your side. And make your way upright. So we're going to come to a kneeling position, and for some of you that will be a very comfortable position, sitting down on your heels, and for others your knees or ankles might say a great big no to that, in which case you might try coming up onto off of your heels onto your knees, if that works for you. And if not, if kneeling is just not your thing and it doesn't work for your knees, you can do this sequence standing using a chair to come down to rather than to the floor. So whether you start high kneeling or low kneeling will be where you end as well. So I'm going to start in low kneeling because that's comfortable for my knees and ankles. You start where it's right for you. Take a moment to bring your hands onto your heart. Find a softness in your breath, an ease in your body, a dropping down through your shoulders, and reconnect with our theme of light today. You might imagine light, and as you imagine it, you could imagine breathing it into your body and maybe sending it, directing it to where it's needed if there's some healing in your body that's needed today. And then from here, as if we could take the light from the heart, releasing the arms and lifting, finding a little lift in the heart. And then as you exhale, coming down to the earth, bringing your hands down, your head down, coming to child's pose, or again to a chair if that's better for you. And then to all fours. Keep your elbows soft, let the chest lift. Good, take a breath in and then exhale, round your back. Inhale, arch. Imagine you could breathe right down to your pubic bone here, and then exhale, move to child's pose. If child's pose isn't comfortable, you could just round the back here. Inhale, lift all the way up to high kneeling. And then as you exhale, bring your hands to the heart and either stay up or come to sit on your heels. And take a moment here, reconnect with your breath, reconnect with the light. And as though you're filling yourself with light, either directing it to where it's needed most in your body or trusting that that light will go where it needs to go, as long as you stay focused and invite that light in. So again, let's inhale and lift up, finding a little lift in the heart as if you could shine the light all around you. Exhale, coming to child's pose. Inhale, all fours. You can either stay on all fours and round your back here, or if you like, you can tuck your toes under and lift to downward dog. And then back to all fours. And then back to child's pose. From child's pose, high kneeling. Bringing the arms overhead, and then exhale, hands back to the heart and back to wherever your starting position was. So let's do that again. Inhale, lifting. Finding that little lift. Exhale, child's pose. And if your breath is a different rate than mine, take extra breaths or go with your breath rate. Coming to all fours, arching, and then again, you can either round the back or come up into downward dog. And if you're rounding the back, you might just do a few rounds of cat-cow here. If you are in downward dog, you might walk your feet in place. Try to let your head relax. And then you'll come down to all fours. Breathing in, finding a little extension or arch in the back, exhaling to child's pose. Inhaling, high kneeling. Bringing the hands over the heart as you come back to wherever you started. And again, take a moment, reconnect with the light. Send it wherever it may be required for your health and healing today. So we're going to add on from our downward dog to move to warrior pose. So if you want to use your blocks to help give you a little length to your arms, you could bring your blocks, if you've got them handy, towards the front of your mat. And if you're working with a chair, all you'll do is step 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and you can use the chair rather than the ground. So from our kneeling position, hands on the heart, we'll lift up, finding that little lift in the heart, and then exhale, child's pose. Inhale, all fours. If you're using blocks and coming to downward dog, you might bring your hands onto the blocks now, and then come to downward dog. From downward dog, however you want to step your left foot forward, so some of you might lower the knee to bring the foot forward, or you may step forward from downward dog. And then bring your back foot a little forward. Again, if you're using blocks, you might just find the height that is really easeful for you to work with. So as we lift up, you'll bend the front knee. You'll extend the arms overhead. Good. Imagining the light in the heart beaming forward here, shoulders down. So we want to find a lift in the heart without overextending the lower back. So as you lift the heart, engage the core a little. So the lift is coming from the upper chest. And then we'll move forward, and you can either bring your hands onto your thigh. If you're using a chair, it could be the chair, the blocks, or the ground. Let your head release forward. And feel the back body, the back of your heart expanding and opening here. So we'll move between those two positions a few times with that idea of shining light or having light shone on the front of the heart, and then shining your light or having light shine onto the back of your heart. As if our chest were filled with light. And as we focus on the front of the chest, the light shines forward. As we focus on the back, the light shines in the back body. Okay, this time when you're coming forward, we'll stay forward and step the right foot to meet the left. From here, hands to the knees, come halfway up, shining the light forward. And then exhale, fold forward, let the head release down. Feel that light shine in the back body, and then lifting all the way up. Breathing in, gathering that light. And again, you can bring the hands back over the heart here. Take a moment to reconnect with the light. Feel the ground beneath your feet here as we come to our first Tadasana, or mountain pose of the class. And then we'll work with the other side. So you can lift up with the breath in. Exhale to come forward. The left foot will step back and make it a fairly short stance, unless you really want to work, a little bit more on your balance and extension. But otherwise, keeping well grounded. We'll lift up with the breath in. And again, let's pause for a moment to feel that groundedness. So the front knee is bent, so it's just over the ankle. The back leg straight and strong. Feeling a line of connection from the sit bone to the earth. And then that little lift in the heart without overextending the lower back. And then we'll come forward. Bring your hands to the knee or the ground or the blocks. The front leg as bent as you need to be comfortable, as straight as you can to feel a good stretch. And then head releasing down, breathing here. Feeling the light expand in the back body, the breath expand into your back body. And then we'll move a few times between those two with that same visualization, lifting the heart, feeling the light shine in the front of the body, and then into the back of the body. A few more like that. And then from that down position, you can step forward again, bringing the feet side by side, bend your knees a little, inhale and lift all the way up. Again, like you're gathering that light, bringing the hands over the heart. Pausing here for a few breaths. Maybe taking a moment to connect with a feeling of gratitude for the light, the warmth, the healing energy of that light. And then releasing the arms and lifting all the way up, like we could gather light, bringing the hands together and drawing that light down. And then spreading the arms wide like you could gather that light and lift. And bring it back to the heart. Let's take that light now and lift it. Big breath in, exhale, big circle. Bring your hands behind your back. Interlace your fingers and draw the shoulders down and back. So it's not about squeezing and going as far back as you can, but creating that little bit of space, breathing into that space. Good, and then releasing, bringing the arms forward, crossing the arms over the chest, bringing the head down and creating a little space in the upper back, breathing into that space. But notice the arm that's currently on top and open the arms wide, bring the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers again, and let the chest lift as the shoulders drop down. And then crossing the other arm over top, bringing the hands to the shoulders, let the head come down. And again, take a few breaths into the back space of your body. Great. And then coming up, we'll release the arms to the sides and take the feet a little bit apart. You can bring your hands onto your hips and do a few circles. So move slowly, notice how your hips feel. So the hip is a ball and socket joint, and there's a full range of motion in that joint. Some areas may feel really fluid and easeful. Other areas may feel a little tighter or sticky. You want to avoid a feeling of pain in the hips if possible. But if your hips are, if there's arthritis in the hips or other injuries, there may be a little bit of discomfort as you move. You want to make sure that you're not creating tension and pain as you move. So making the circles smaller if necessary. You're coming back to the center. You can keep the feet wide as they are, or wherever they're comfortable, and we'll roll one shoulder. And as you roll the shoulder forward, let the knee come forward and the hip come forward, and then roll back. So your body is moving. It's not just your shoulders. Feel the whole body moving, and you can bring the arms into it like you're doing a backstroke or a front crawl, whichever direction you're going. And then at some point we will reverse. It's creating lots of ease and space through your movement. Right, and then coming back to the center, and you can just give it all a little shake out. And then again with the feet a little bit wider, maybe even wider than they are they were for the hip and shoulder circles. And then let's take one foot to the side. So the foot and knee are pointing straight out to the side, while your hips and shoulders more or less stay pointing forward. And then as you bend the knee of the foot that you've turned, you want to look down and make sure that you see your knee pointing in the same direction as your toes. So if you look from, if you're looking at the screen from a front angle, the knee is straight ahead, so not twisted. So if I try to bring my hips more to the center and my knee comes, I'm going to forget about moving my hips and keep my knee centered over my foot. So from here, arms to the side, this is Warrior Two. And we'll move down to the side of the bent leg. You can place the hand on the leg or reach down the inside. And then you'll bring the hand to the back leg, turn the other palm up, and reach that arm up and over. So the legs stay where they are. Body moves side to side. And then next time we come down to the side, you can stay there. So you might place your hand on your thigh, or it could be the forearm on your thigh. This arm could reach up or come behind the back. And then think about stacking your shoulders. So in general, the shoulder that's up, you want to move it back a little bit. If you want more stretch, take the arm that's up and reach it overhead, your palm facing down. And then breathe into that long side. So from the armpit all the way down the side of the body, imagine you could breathe into that space. Coming all the way up, warrior two again. Let's lower the arms. Turn the feet parallel. Before we go to the other side, we'll lift up with a breath in. Bend your knees as you come forward. You can either stop with the hands or elbows on the thighs or reach toward the ground. Take a breath here and then come up. Breathing in, reaching overhead. Exhale, arms to your sides. So we'll turn the other foot straight out. And again, you want to check in with your knee. So as you bend your knee, you want it to be straight in line, tracking over your toes. But you want to stop when your knee is over your ankle. So you're not here, which is quite a bit of strain on the knee. If you want to bend that knee more, you can always take your feet wider and bend the knee a little bit more. The angle of your back foot, whoops, whole carpet move there. The angle of your back foot is really determined by what's comfortable for you. So it could be a little more out, a little more in, straight ahead. And then from here, arms to the sides. We'll move dynamically at first. You can exhale as you go down to the side. Inhale as you lift up and a little back. So exhaling. Again, if your breath doesn't match mine, move at your own pace or add extra breaths as required. Exhaling as you go down, inhaling as you lift up. Good. And you can come down to the side, and again, forearm or hand on the knee. Other arm could come behind your back. Again, you want to think about the shoulders being level with one another so we're not leaning forward. It is a side bend, and then breathing into that long side. If you want more stretch, you can lift the arms straight up or come over your head with the palm facing the ground if it's over your head. Think about drawing that shoulder down and back. Coming up, warrior two. Turn your feet parallel. Palms up, lift the arms up. Big breath in, exhale, bend your knees and come forward. You can stop either hands or elbows on the thighs or come all the way down, and we'll repeat that movement a few times. So you'll lift with the breath in. Soften your knees as you go forward, any amount. And if you like, you can stay for a few breaths in that forward bend, any version. And then coming all the way up. And releasing. Step your feet in towards each other. And bring one hand over the other, over your chest. You can close your eyes or keep them open as you like. Take a moment to notice the feeling of being grounded, dropping into your heels, the rhythm and the flow of your own breath, and any feeling of spaciousness or light that you may have been able to connect with in today's class. And then slowly release the arms. We'll come back onto the ground. And as you come down to the ground, you might try knees to chest, moving forward and back, or you could circle the knees around, just finding some ease in the body after our standing postures. Let's bring the right knee in as the left foot comes to the floor. And you can take your right ankle and place it just above your left thigh. Or sorry, just above your left knee on the thigh. And then your right hand could come to your right thigh and gently press the leg away. If this feels like enough stretch for you, more would be too much, you can go ahead and stay here. If you want more stretch, bringing the legs closer to the body, and there's lots of ways to do that. One simple way to get a little bit more stretch is to take a block, bring it underneath your foot. You could also do this with a chair. If you placed the lower leg on a chair, you can decide how much in or out the legs need to be to find the right stretch for you. If your arms are long enough and your hips open enough, you might be able to reach your hands behind the leg. So not the leg that's crossed over, but the one that was on the floor. And if your arms aren't quite long enough, maybe a belt just to extend them would be helpful. So once you get there, wherever there is for you, you tune into your breath and notice where you feel restriction or tightness in your body in this position. So for many people, it'll be somewhere around the hip of the leg that's up. Wherever you feel that tightness, wherever you feel sensation, excuse me, you're going to send your breath there. Imagine you're sending light with your breath into that tightness, that light could create some warmth and some opening, some expansiveness. If you like, you can rock a little bit side to side, the last few breaths as we hold this pose. And then when you're ready, you can slowly release. You can stretch the legs out and the arms overhead in between. And then coming back to where you were, knees bent, the other leg coming across now. And again, whatever variation works for you. So it might be just staying here, pressing the thigh away, or perhaps lifting the foot onto a block or a chair, or using your hands or a belt to extend your reach to bring hands behind the thigh. So wherever you are, whatever this pose looks like for you, you're going to come back to your breath. Notice where you feel tightness as you breathe, and sending the breath to that area as though you were sending light to create some space. Again, you might rock a bit side to side for those last few breaths if you like. And then again, you can slowly release, stretch the legs out, stretch the arms overhead. Take a couple of breaths there. And then slowly releasing the arms down and bending your knees. And you could bring the knees into the chest, and any movement that would feel good here. And then let your feet come back to the floor and let the hands come back onto your body. Come back to your breath right where we started today. Breathing light to wherever is required in your body, or maybe it's your mind or your emotions that need some healing light. Wherever it's required for you, you can imagine literally your breath going to that physical part of your body, or you may direct the breath to the mind or to the heart or to wherever else you feel you could use some healing. So a few more breaths like this, really filling ourselves with light. And if you're struggling with this theme today, if light doesn't come easily to you, you might connect with compassion or simply be with what is. So you can take a few more nice, easy, relaxed breaths here. There's nothing else you need to do right now. And then if you would like to rest a little longer, feel free. You might, if you're watching the video in recording, you might just turn the recording off and you can rejoin us for the very end of the class. Or if you're ready to come upright, we'll do a little bit of a visualization exercise seated. So you can make your way to seated if you're ready. And when you get there, taking the hands over the heart. Usually the right hand goes first, then the left hand. Take a few breaths here. Again, reconnecting with your breath, with this concept of light. Where light is, there's expansion. Where stress is, there's contraction. So as we breathe and create some space, invite the light into that space. We're inviting the stress or the contraction to leave the body. So we've worked today to fill ourselves with light, to spread that light around us, to feel it in our joints and in our breath. And now I would invite you, if there's someone else in your life that could use some healing light, you might bring them into your mind now. And you could imagine that person surrounded in light. You could take your hands from your own heart and opening them in front of you like you're creating an offering, knowing that the light source within you is infinite. So when you offer that light to others for their healing, for their support, when you offer it as a gift of love, it doesn't deplete you in any way. So send that light out, and you can open the arms and imagine sending that light out to wherever it may be needed today. And then bringing the hands back to your own heart, knowing that your light is not diminished by sharing it, but it's the opposite. It grows stronger through sharing. And then palms together. Carrying this light with you in your heart, sharing it with others as you go out into the world. And feeling the expansiveness that comes with the focus on our light. Namaste.